given that you guys decided to work in Bombay, to work in Hindi films, I was reading a blog of yours where you listed your top 40 movies. And I think only one Hindi movie features in it, if I'm not mistaken. I think Golmaal is one movie that you've included in 40 movies that you loved all your life, right?
Honest truth be told, Golmaal I watched first in Tamil, the Rajnikant version. Then someone said, "Oh, you love the Tamil version. You should watch the Hindi movie now." And then I remember watching the Hindi version then, and I thought, "Oh, this is really good. This is really good." And so that's why it made it to the list. But otherwise, God forbid, the Tamil version would have made it to the list.
The correction is it was one Hindi film, but quite a few regional films. I think that's where we were watching.
There were a few regional films, and yeah, there was Sagar Sangamam,
Khuda Gawar to it's just one big marquee film used to come and play, and that's it. That's all you get to see. And our Hindi was limited to the Mahabharat Hindi, so so you pick and choose what you understand.
What cannot be missed in those 40 films is the sheer preponderance of American cinema, especially American independent cinema, mid 90s onwards, early 2000s. And that seems to be where a lot of your inspiration comes from. When you come from that background, when you're trying to make movies in Bombay, is that something that becomes a handicap? When you're writing, for instance, even casting or even looking at technical crew, because you may not have seen their works from before, or maybe that actor you've not seen on screen to actually write a character which would fit an actor.
See, I think what it gave us is that it's not like we didn't watch Hindi cinema. There was a lot of Hindi cinema we watch, and more, and even as much Telugu as much Tamil. So with 3 languages were covered in India, and there was a lot of American indie cinema and world cinema, and of course the mainstream popcorn Hollywood. So the point was, even when we're watching the Hollywood films, go to every day to theaters, watch, and there was like, you go to watch 3 movies in a row, right? All the time. So I was fascinated with the indie cinema because they were more character driven. They had interesting plots, and they were struggling with the budgets, I think. So the innovation came from the non-budget parts of it. So when we started to write our stuff, the heavy influence was indie cinema, because we're putting our own money, and you never think of the car flies off or like a bomb blast and then you run and slow motion choppers and stuff. We don't think that way. So you're thinking at the grassroots level and saying, this is cinema and this is what we're going to write and this is what we know. So when you're writing characters and stuff, most of the times, yes, you do derive from real life, saying that it's like that guy meets this guy, or just a trait of him, or just remember our boss and he used to say this shit, so let's take that. So you would identify a lot with real life people, a lot. All the anecdotes, even if you see our early films, all of them, I could, till a few years ago, I could draw parallels to each character and say where certain traits were picked from real life mostly.
Give me some examples of a real life person that you've seen in one of your films.
Let's go to Stree, for example.
Okay.
The whole friendship, he says, I'm doing friendship with this girl. And
he brings a girl for friendship, right? Friendship.
Right.
So we actually use the word friendship from Tirupati, from a friend.
Even the guy, we haven't even changed the guy's name.
Yeah. So we
Can
have
we say it?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm saying not that guy. I'm saying in general, we've got a bunch of guys like Jana. Jana was a name from Tirupati. Narendra was a name from like a good friend of mine. All these people made it to different character names, and even Vicky for that matter. So most of these are incidents too. So, they used to say stuff like friendship. I'm going to do friendship with that girl. I'm like, oh, really? That was hilarious too. Because I had to ask, what is friendship? What is the extent of friendship? We had to discuss this bits to understand what it was.
It became a bit of a buzzword afterwards. It's like, oh, there is that girl. You want to do friendship? She's available for friendship types.
But it was just hilarious the way there was so much in it, complexity wise, that you had. There was a lot of sexism. There was a lot of something you take for granted, things like that. And something so flippantly you use the terminology, but it was part of the culture.
Even in Family Man, I think there is a significant, especially the kids, Atharv and Dhriti, especially, there is significant influence. Dhriti is definitely inspired by our friend's daughter in terms of just being this,
She doesn't like it anymore, DK. I don't think she
doesn't like it anymore.
This,
Okay,
she disowned the Family Man too. She disowned the character. So I
After
have
two,
to
okay. But in season 1, at least, maybe she was more or
Season one,
less.
she loved it. Season 2, they had so I have to talk to her and say, why would you identify so much with it? It's just a name. So, like, for example, my nephew used to, when I was to go to visit my sister, he used to be playing this flute and it was slightly horrible. So I'd be like, what are you doing? So poor guy, but we used to laugh at it, saying like, what are you doing? And since you want me to play, and my sister will say he's gonna play a song, and be like, okay, I know where it's gonna go. Of course, he's very good at it. If you're watching this, I know you're very good at it. You're gonna excel in this.
See, you're getting us in a lot of trouble.
No, not at all.
People we
Not
know
at all.
by asking all these questions, man.
Okay, actually, closer home. The guy, the boss in Family Man. That seems like a boss you guys have met.
It's an amalgamation of all the shitty bosses that we work for. So we wanted to make one punching bag, and it's almost like DK and I were discussing when we were like long ago, like 5 movies ago, just writing and stuff, like when we were still software engineers and writing that stuff and saying one day we're gonna make a boss and punch him in the face. So that's what it was.
But where is that? Don't be the minimum guy. Is that straight out of an HR textbook, or is that something that someone's told you before?
We were just writing. And then I was looking at different quotes that go on the wall. I was looking for I've seen them before. So it was always like, don't be this, or like rise up and stuff like that. So then just wanted to coin a word. It was a coined word. It wasn't there before.
I don't think it's from an existing quote. It was just a coined word.
Yeah,
for the show. We coined it.
Just wrote it like, don't be a minimum guy. It's kind of wrong English, inspired by like Trump, Mrs. Trump, and went for a slogan that wasn't the best of English, but it made sense in some way.
Actually, we've coined another phrase as well in Go Go Gone, where we write where the characters say, "What do we know? What have we learned?" Right? They keep saying this. It is a slogan from their telemarketing company that they work for, the call center thing. And we also want to do a little ode to Steve Jobs Day. So we put Steve Jobs' picture and then said, what do we know? What have we learned? But that's not actually a quote he said.
Right.
So it's just a quote we made up.
Even for that matter, the Govinda's character, right? In Happy Ending. The fact that he gives make this movie. This is meet the parents first half and meet the fuckers second half. That also seems like something you guys have, some producer you've met, some actor type you've met. Go for it.
We did. Yeah. Those were the exact movies also.
Okay.
Then when we said no, not our genre, then he immediately came up with 2 more DVDs. Analyze this, analyze that.
So it might be slightly exaggerated, but the idea was these DVDs were given to us.
Was it a star or was it a producer?
It was a producer.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.